Merhaba, hoş geldiniz.
Hello and welcome. Today we have an event co-organized by the Hrant Dink Foundation and Houshamadyan. In this event, we will get to know Houshamadyan, and Vahe will be talking about the experience and the story of Houshamadyan. So I will say a few introductory remarks first. Vahe Taşçıyan was born in Lebanon. He had his PhD studies in Paris. He is interested in Cilicia, Armenian Ottomans, and refugees in the Middle East. These are his topics of interest. He has many articles and books published in these fields, and these topics also overlap with the work of Houshamadyan as well. And Vahe participated in the Muslimized Armenians conference organized by the foundation in 2013. He talked about mixed marriages, prostitution, and survivor women and their reintegration in the Ottoman society. He had a presentation on that topic back in 2013. Yes. So, as I have said, he will be talking about what Houshamadyan does, why Houshamadyan is important, and I will be inviting Arletin Cituzel in a while, one of the interpreters and translators of Houshamadyan. Most of you know Arle, I guess. And there is another reason why she's here today. It's because Arle is the coordinator of Turkish communication of Houshamadyan, which is an important topic because we will learn how Houshamadyan communicates with the Turkish readers from Turkey. Maybe you are already familiar with Houshamadyan, you are using it, but we will be learning about the communication, these links. As the foundation, we are curious to learn about these topics, and of course we collaborate with Houshamadyan on many topics such as the cultural heritage and other history projects. And as we have done before, 3 years ago, we had a series of workshops. Today, tomorrow, and Saturday, we are going to have this archive work for memories of objects of memory. This is going to be the second round, if we may say so, and we would like to see you here tomorrow as well. So, without further ado, I would like to give the floor directly to you. You'll talk about Houshamadyan.
And just a few words about the scenography of today's evening event. So I will start my talk with an introduction of a presentation of Houshamadyan, probably some 15-20 minutes. And then I will give the stage to Arlet, and she will talk about her experience and some information about the exchange of letters with our Turkish readers, visitors from Turkey, which is taking place in Turkish, this written exchange of letters and messages. And at the end, I will present, or let's say, a guided visit to the website. We will hear some, perhaps, if we have time, music from our website, and at the end, if still we have time, we will see a short podcast prepared by our team. Some years ago, a person talking about Houshamadyan project recalled a novel written in Armenian by an Armenian novelist, Norair Adalyan. This novel was published in 1985 in Yerevan, and this person made a parallel between our project, Houshamadyan project, and the novel. Perhaps some of you know the novel. It's called Gabuit Yerzanga, the Blue Yerzanga. It's about a Yerzanga Erzincan born couple. Their name, the man is called Pavastos, and the wife is called Ashken. And they are old. Probably they were living at that time in a village in Soviet Armenia. And Pavestos for decades tried to prepare on paper the layout, the map of the city of Yerzenga. It was something that in modern days we will call the use of visual representations as a method of memory restoration. That's what Pavestos was doing all his life. And Pavestos was not an intellectual. He was a retired baker. His father was also a baker from Yerzenga, working in Yerzenga. And the efforts of Pavestos consisted to restore the memory of the Armenian Yerzenga, the one that was erased physically from the city. That means all Armenian symbolic places, but also Armenian houses, like the central Armenian school of the city, the house of Der Mesrop Torosyan, the market where Pavestos was buying his leblebi from Armenian and Greek merchants, the Surpergit church, the fountain located in the garden of the Mamigonian brothers. That was where the best water of Yerzenka you can find. The Serpon bath, which was near the Armenian church, the house of tightrope walker Ghazaros, the courtyard between the Surp Sarkis and Surp Yerortuchun churches, which was the playground of the Armenian children of Yerzenga. So he dedicated many years to achieve this goal, to prepare the plan of the city, and he was never satisfied with his work. We can also notice another person in this novel, the wife, Ashken, and she played a key role in restoring the memory of Yerzenga in the preparation of this map. She was not directly participating in her husband's life-devoted efforts, but she was observing him attentively. And for example, she was sewing socks for her grandchild, which were at that time in the Soviet army. But at the same time, when her husband was making some memory errors, she was intervening, and each time he was correcting him. And so Ashken was the real memory of Yerzenga. At the end of the novel, and I'm summarizing here, Pavestos is convinced that the map is achieved, and just after that, there is a strong dispute between man and wife about where to hang the map. Pavestos was saying that it should be hung in the bedroom, where only Ashken and Pavestos will see it. And Ashken was saying that the map should be hung in the living room, where everybody can see the map. And at the end, before going to bed, they are again reconciled and satisfied with the long life achievement. And in the morning, the neighbor found them lying in the bed, sticking their heads together, and they were dead. The question that I ask myself after reading this novel, I haven't read this novel before, is that really Houshamadyan? Is that really what we are doing for about 8 years now? Our team, me, my wife, other members of our team, is that really what we are doing? Indeed, I can find similarities between the story of the novel and our work in Houshamadyan. Just a few examples of that. First point, it's a never-ending project. When we founded Houshamadyan, we were convinced that in a 5-year time, we will achieve to cover most of the regions of the Ottoman Empire inhabited previously by Armenians. And that was really an illusion. The empire is very vast, just a picture of the map here. And you will see the map of the Ottoman Empire just before the start of the First World War. And in most of these places at that time, most of these places were inhabited by Armenians. In some places, the Armenian were fewer. In some places, they were a considerable population, but everywhere you can find Armenian. And the main issue for us, for each region were inhabited by Armenians in this vast empire, you can find primary sources telling us about the life before genocide, before 1915. Another similarity with the novel, we are never satisfied with our work, and of course our work consists of reconstructing a memory of more than 100 years. We are working with just traces of that memory, mostly written traces left by Armenian survivors of genocide, like memory books, books written by survivors of genocide, by Armenian survivors about their life in the village, about the history of their native village, native town, native city. You can find memoirs, personal memoirs, and so these are mostly the traces that left by the Armenians after the genocide. You can find also some other materials, like I forget to tell, drawings that Pavel Stos himself, his whole life, he tried to map or to draw the map of Yerzenga. You can find also many other examples, such examples. You can find letters, exchange of letters between members of families. Some members were still at that time in their homeland, others were in the immigration. So you can find this kind of exchange of letters between different members of the family. So all these are a very rich primary sources that are, many of them at our disposal. And so here it's the perfect example of post-memory, as Marianne Hirsch pointed out in her books. We are trying to reconstruct a memory based on written sources. In other words, the memory of the first generation of Ottoman Armenians who started a new life in the diaspora and Armenia, and who started to write about their home village, hometown, and home city in the 1920s onwards. And we know about these published works. Already we published in our website a bibliography prepared by a colleague of us, where you can find these published books, these memory books about history of village, town, and cities. And the problem, so we have many of these books, part of this bibliography that you can find in our website. Most of these books, it's already at our disposal, and others are not. We don't have that books in our Houshamadyan's library or digital library, but we know at least where to find them, in which library. So we already localized most of these books, or the majority of these books. But what about those works on village life, on city life, on town life that were never been published and were kept for many years in family archives, family collections, or in institutional archives? Their number is also huge. You can find them in different family homes throughout the world. You can find them in different institutions or library archives. And for example, in Yerevan, there are thousands of pages consisted of letters, unpublished memoirs or memory books, all related to Ottoman Armenians. And this kind of works you can find in different institutional archives in Yerevan, like the Madena Taran or the National Library, etc. So these are really huge number of unpublished works that sometimes we can reach to these collections, to these papers, but in the majority cases, no, they are not at our disposal, but I will explain later about that. We know that about the richness of this kind of sources. We know that there are also works written before 1915, before the genocide, and unfortunately we know also many cases of these works that were destroyed by the family themselves. Just one example of such works destroyed by the family themselves in the Harpert region or in the Harpert city. And this is, I was informed about this story through some memoirs, also exchange of letters between members of one family, and it's about the Lulegian family. So the Lulegians were from Harpert, from the city of Harput, and we know that Garabet Lulegian, who died just before 1915, if I'm not wrong, he died in 1914. But Garabet Lulegian was a notable in the Armenian community of Harpert. He was one of the founders and the first teachers of the Harpert Euphrates College, the missionary American college. And we know that this Garabet had written many works which were never published. For example, he had written about the geography of his region, the Harpert region. He had written the history of the Harpert region, and these remained manuscripts until 1915. And just before the first arrests in 1915, I mean, that happened in May, June, July 1915, before the first arrest in the provinces, we know that many family members or many families destroyed what they have of Armenian books and Armenian manuscripts. And this happened also in the case of Garabet Lulegian's family. His son, he was also a teacher who studied in the United States. Then he came back to Harpert to teach in the Euphrates College in 1912. We know that Donabet Lulegian, his son, and other members of the family, they destroyed all they have of manuscripts, and among them their father's manuscript. Destroyed, maybe it's not the correct word. We know in their case that they buried these works, but at the end they left Harpert without any trace of this manuscript, or those who survived the genocide left Harpert without any traces of the works. Just another example, and this is not so much pessimistic example. A couple of months ago, someone from Lebanon contacted us to say that he had at his disposal a manuscript about the Urfa Armenians history. So it was written in 19th century. The person who wrote this work was a priest, a married priest, and he died during the massacres of 1895 in Urfa. And the manuscript consisted of some 500 pages. It's about the history of Urfa in 19th century and some parts of 18th century. So it's a unique work, and you can see that this way each work, each manuscript has its own story, has its own itinerary, and some survived, like this one from Urfa. Others, like the works of Garabet Lulegian, stayed where they were buried in the courtyard of their house. On the one side, the existence of such important sources is a wonderful news. It should be considered as a positive sign, confirming the richness of the Armenian primary sources. On the other hand, it gives us the impression that our articles, the articles that we publish in Houshamadyan, are never finalized. They are still somewhere in a family collection in the United States or in an official archive in Yerevan, another work, other texts that will shed light on local life in this or that Ottoman Armenians inhabited village, town, or city. Our team in Houshamadyan don't have the human and financial resources to engage collective research programs where more than one scholar will be involved in the study of this or that region. We have the scientific knowledge on how to start such researches, who are the qualified persons for that, but we don't have the means, and that is, of course, frustrating a little bit, and it gives you the bitter taste that the already achieved work could be improved and enriched. So some other points where I will try to show differences this time, or incongruities between Houshamadyan and the novel, the person of the work of Pavestos. The novel, Adalian's novel, Norar Adalian's novel, could be classified in the category of communal lament genre, although this genre is not very obvious in this particular text, but most of the Armenian literary works produced on this theme by that generation were marked by the expressions of grief and mourning. And this is also the case of most of the primary sources that I mentioned before, the history of a village or the memory of a village, of a town, of a city, written by the first generation of Armenians in the diaspora, or mostly in the diaspora, but also in Armenia, in Soviet Armenia at that time. And this genre, or this expressions of mourning, or this kind of expressions, this is exactly what we avoid to do in our website's articles. Actually, reconstructing a memory of a past collective life, what we try to do in our project, is a delicate and in the same time high sensitive task. At any moment, you can swing into a conflicting situation. More clearly, we know that the printing technology in the past and in the present, and today the internet, which is a new technology, but also perhaps the technology of the future. And these are wonderful tools to reconstruct a town of the past, to revive the local environment, the local ambience. In other words, these are technological tools that can transform the memory of a place into something vivid and accessible to the public. But there is the other side of the coin too. An article that I read a couple of years ago was entitled Battlefields of Memory by Kapralski, written by Kapralski. It's about how memory of a group that perished and its material representations can be manipulated by those who remained. However, the perished group may also misuse memory, concentrating only on the violent episodes of the past, presenting the other, those who remained and became the owners of their lands and homes, as the devil per se. This way, the memory is transformed into a real battlefield between two antagonist groups. And just take the examples of Armenian and Turkish historiography, and you will find many such examples. And the idea of the website, our website, Houshamadyan website, is to evade, to adopt this kind of paradigm. The article should be read in 3 different languages without provoking the readers, notwithstanding his or her nationality or ideological affiliation. And believe me, this is not an easy task, mainly when our ambition is to become a popular website, visited not only by academics, but also by ordinary readers, Armenians, Turks, Kurds. And from the first day, we wanted to transform the website into a collaborative space where people from different national backgrounds will be able to participate to our efforts to reconstruct a mutual memory, a mutual heritage. What we achieved during the past 7 years on this level, I think the social medias help a lot to be in direct contact with our readers from Turkey. And on this topic, Arlet will give us some information about her experience during her exchange of letters with our Turkish readers. Please.
Parayagak, hoş geldiniz. Ben
Hello. I am responsible for the Turkish correspondence for Houshamadyan. On social media, we have started to share articles, and the number of the articles has actually increased, and many people have actually gotten in touch with us ever since. How do they get in touch with us? Let me tell you about that. First of all, they send emails to Houshamadyan, and that is forwarded to me, and based on the content of that correspondence, I write a reply. Or sometimes we get comments when we share stuff on social media. And thirdly, when I translate an article, sometimes a group of people, maybe if not directly through Houshamadyan, they get in touch with me, and the number there is also increasing. So perhaps writing to someone from Turkey is actually warmer for them rather than writing to Houshamadyan. So who gets in touch with us? Historians, researchers, students, academics, and also, secondly, the people who come from the region that the article focuses on. And thirdly, sometimes, we get people who engage in hate mail, hate speech, but the number there is not very high. And finally, there are some opportunists, people who I'm going to call opportunists, some people who want to sell me something, sell us something, so I do correspond with them as well, funnily enough, as for the content. Now, researchers, academics, and students, they want visual material support. As long as our logo is used, we do not turn those wishes down, because we want as many people as possible to see these. As Vahe says, we take cooperation very seriously, especially cooperation from Turkey, because in a way, what we are trying to do is, these people are actually local residents of the regions that we're talking about, and some people living in that region who speak Turkish get in touch with us, and that's really valuable for us. And also, just like Vahe has said, there are so many memoirs, but many of these are in Armenian. Some have been translated into English and French, but during a research, perhaps people get hold of the name of that book, but ask us about the content. Some people think that they can sell an item to us. Some people think that that would be possible. Or sometimes from the regional public. Vahe is going to show you a picture. We share a visual about a certain locale, and we receive the current state of that region, right? People telling us this is what it looks like now, today. So let us show you a picture from the same angle. One of our readers actually get in touch with us. This one is what we shared, and here you see what it looks like today. One of our readers actually took a snapshot and sent it to us. Or a climber sees a piece of rock, a tombstone, takes a picture and sends it to us saying, I found this, would you be interested? Or like I said, some people say, oh, I have this valuable item, would you be willing to buy it? So I do correspond with everyone, especially those who try to sell me something, and I ask for a high-res image just to collect images. So I haven't received anything valuable so far, but if I get a valuable item one day, of course I'm going to report it to the authorities. But anyway, sometimes researchers, they ask for support for the articles that they write, and provided they mention us, of course, we give consent to that, and we take this communication very seriously indeed. But to be honest, on social media, it is rather difficult to reply to social media comments. For emails, I think it's faster to correspond, but social media, everything is so fast, and also people also engage in a talk with one another, so I do not intervene. And as for hate mail, hate speech, I mean, I do not respond to them. We do not respond to them because such a discussion would not be beneficial to any either of the parties. But we don't get a lot of hate mail. And also an interesting story about one of the things that was communicated to me. I had translated an article. As you know, the registers records were made public in Turkey, and a surgeon got in touch with me who realized that his paternal great-great-parents were Armenians, and he was quite confused, and I couldn't help him as such, but sometimes we receive an email saying at this year, at this location, this woman married, and this was the maiden name, and sometimes people think that we are an authority, but of course we're not in touch with, we are not actually responsible for those things, but we do respond to such requests. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. We'd be happy to entertain them. So people who get in touch with us, with me in Turkish, do so. Sometimes they ask for support. Sometimes researchers find an Armenian text and they want me to translate it if it's a short paragraph, or if it's the name of a book. Of course, I'd be happy to translate that. But if some people ask me for a translation, for the translation of an entire book, and of course I have to turn it down from time to time. But interest is increasing day by day, and we take it very seriously, because what we want is to share all this information and take ownership of this heritage and honor this heritage as well. And the articles that we publish are actually from Armenian resources, but the life that people shared was a shared one. People used to share things. Sometimes people support us by providing information, especially on the digital archive. There are some things that people have shared that are really interesting. Sometimes a reader writes to us and says, my great-great-father used to live there, used to live here, and I still have some items. How can I send it over to the original family? So we try to put people in touch as well, if that happens, and then leave it to them. Like I said, we receive a lot of feedback from readers in Turkey. So that's what I'd like to say for the time being. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, like I said, I'd be happy to answer them.
Şimdi bir tanıtımı yapacak Vaya, ondan sonra.
Just an information to add to what you said earlier about this genealogical archives. Just when the decision came to open the archives, suddenly the number of our visitors from Turkey, the visit of our website, exploded. Yeah, it's for 2 or 3 days we had some 2,000 visitors from Turkey, which is huge. Yeah, normally we have some 150 visitors from Turkey only, but during these 3 days there were some 2,000 or 3,000 visitors. Yeah, and that was the record, and thanks to this to this decision. And yes, and do I need to show how to use the website, or I don't know if normally I do it when I'm abroad, yeah, but here, if you don't have the experience to visit the website, I'll do it with pleasure. Okay, just with a few words. The questions at the end, please. Yeah. So here is the website, and there are 3 main ways to visit the website. So the first option is the homepage. So there are many articles on the homepage, but they are not the whole articles. There are probably some 20% of the articles you can find it on the homepage. So you can click on one of them, and you will find the corresponding article. But the other way, the second option, is the maps. In the section of maps, so you can click on different vilayets, different provinces of the Ottoman Empire. So I didn't want to open this one, but yeah, already it's done. This is the vilayet of Aleppo. For example, in the vilayet of Aleppo, we have already some 1, 2, 3, 5 regions covered: Zeytun, Musaler, Urfa, Marash, and Aintab. Let's visit which one. Is there any preferences? Marash. Huh? Somebody, I heard Marash. Okay, Marash. The Marash articles are written by Varti Keshishian, the mother of Vahakan Keshishian. And so here is Marash articles. Let's take religion, and in religion you have, let's take churches and of Marash, and here you can find an article on churches in Marash. Okay, this is the second option, the second way to visit the website. And the other one, for example, it's more, it's concerned more to specialists. Yeah? If somebody is interested only in schools, in education, in the life of Ottoman Armenians, you open this part, this section, themes, and here you go to education. And in the part of education, there is a subsection which is called schools. And here in schools, there are many articles on schools in Agan, in Kuri, in Dersim, in Dörtyol, in Kharpert, 2 articles on Kharpert, on Marash, on Sis, Kozan, Yozgat, Mush. Let's take the article on Mush, and here is the Mush article on schools. We have until now some 125 articles. This is the number of the articles that already we published on the website, and some 25 different regions. That could be a city, that could be a whole region, that could be sometimes a town. Some 25 places are covered. So it's only just probably 15 or 17% of what we intend to do. And the whole picture is, as I said, is much more larger. It's very big. It's very yeah. And let's hear some music now, if you have time. Okay. Last time when I was here, that was 3 years ago, I was talking about a very important collection, a musical collection that belongs to someone who is now in Los Angeles. He's originally from Lebanon, and now he's living in Glendale. And I can say that during his long life, he collected musical records, songs sung by survivors. And so he traveled a lot, and his name is, the name of the person is Bedros Alahaydoyan. He traveled a lot. He traveled to Aleppo. He went to Athens, to Armenia, to France, to Belgium, to the United States, and everywhere he collected songs sung by survivors. And last time when I was here, I talked about this collection, and at that time we were looking for funding in order to digitize all this collection, and hopefully we found it, the funding, and now the whole collection is in process to be digitized, and until now we already published many songs, and you can find them on our website. For example, if you go to themes and in local characteristics, you can find this subsection, song and dance, and here you can find many songs from different regions of the Ottoman Empire, Armenian songs, or sung by Armenians. Sometimes the songs are in Turkish or in Kurdish. Yes, the one that I want to show you is Van 1. The first one, and here the singer is someone from a village of Van, from the village of Ishkhanakom, and the person is called Yenovk Deragopian. So for many generations there are singers in the family, and or they were part of a family, or a family of what is the English word? Minstrel, yeah, ashur, and later he came to the United States, and there he became an artist. He had many works of art which are now displayed in different American museums. And here we can hear a couple of his songs. Which one I chose? Yes, this number 6 is called Vana Kahken Tursiela. Number 6. This is also important. For each song, we are also preparing the notes. The English word was not note. The person who is preparing them is a musicologist, Zovik Markarian. And so here you can also not only hear the song, but you can also play them if you are a musician. So here is the song that we want to hear now.
Vanna kafken tursela vaylele vaylo, Vanna kafken tursela vaylele vaylo, Hayreni kitserata invarti sokakes, Hayreni kitserata invarti sokakes. Well,
yeah, that's the first one. The second one is Vartni Patsve, really a Van song. I'm not a musicologist, yeah. So I'm just clicking on the button, and you will hear but I will not make a commentary about the music and the words. The specialist is here. Is it here? Altuk? No, okay, but is here. When you have questions, he is the person to answer. And so.
Vatmi patsver vana kafki ekesta. Vatmi patsver vana kafki ekesta. Astvat sires me kodohti tujigatad. Astvat sires me kodohti tujigatad. Kya khorotig kya nazerov tu virnes. Kya khorotig kya nazerov tu virnes. Ashhar kiti alam kiti tu imnes. Ashhar kiti alam kiti tu imnes.
And let's hear now some Diyarbakir Dikranagert songs. And which one? Diyarbakir 2. So this is also part of Bedros Alaeddin collection. It's sung by someone from Syria, from Kamishli, Popken Simonian, in 1984. And it's a band here. Yeah? It's not only just one person singing, but here you can also hear the band playing behind the singer. And the number 2. These songs have also their own stories, yeah, and so this is part also of our experience in Houshamadyan. Each time when we publish an article, sometimes it happened that a person a close person or just a foreign person contact us and correct some errors that we are making, because we are, as I said, we are working with just traces of that memory. But in this case, it was a close person, a very a person, Ardashes Margosyan, who contacted us. He's also from, of course, the Kranagert, and he corrected many words that many dialectical words that we used, and we made many errors. Yeah? And so at the end, the quality of the transcription was really very much improved. And this song is called Inch Eretzir Tun Eretzir. I don't have so much time, yeah. And so there is just another one, and the songs will. So number 8, and it is called. No. Yeah, Amune Daran and Zi Chedaran Keamo, which. The English translation is, they took all the other, but they didn't take me to wife. And I want to finish with a podcast. And this podcast was prepared during an event or after an event that we organized in Michigan. Like the events that will take place tomorrow, we called the people to come and to bring with them some family collections in relation with their family in the Ottoman empires, for example, pictures, memory objects, and in Michigan, Tolga also helped us, and that I think that was a unique experience for him, and for different reasons, but we collected many materials during that event, and we are so happy that we decided to make a podcast showing the different objects, but also showing the people who participated to this event. And yeah, I hope that tomorrow we will also be very satisfied with the result of the event, and we will hopefully prepare a podcast for our Istanbul event. And and so here is that podcast. Podcast. Yeah. Thank you very much. The music also is played by a local group, by a local Armenian American group. Yeah. That's beautiful song.